Welcome to the Go Slow to Go Fast Lifestyle Podcast, the space where we breathe deeply, live more intentionally, and find meaning in the messy middle of life. I'm your host, Kendra Chapman, mom of triplets, busy professional, caffeine lover, and a big believer in slowing down so we can show up fully. If you're a busy human navigating a career, family, life changes, or all of the above, you're in good company. Around here, we don't focus on perfection. We build rhythms that support peace, clarity, and joy. Today, we're diving into a topic that is incredibly relevant for many women in our community, particularly those navigating significant life transitions. Mindfulness strategies for embracing the shifts of life, especially on how to connect with our mind because it's foundational to our overall well-being. My guest today is Florence Doisneau, a self-realization coach from France, currently living in Pensacola, Florida. And she brings a unique perspective to how we can approach the natural phases of our life with more intention, less stress, and more focus on the powerful connection between mind, body, and soul. And so whether you're listening on your morning commute or during a walk outside or just sitting quietly with a cup of something warm, this is your time. And I hope that you can take a deep breath with me and Florence today, and let's get started. So Florence, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you on the Go Slow to Go Fast podcast. And before we get started, can you share a little bit about what going slow means to you?
Well, hello, Kendra. I'm so happy to be here today. Been looking forward to our conversation. And going slow, I guess, to me, the best way to talk about this is conjuring, I'm sure, a scene that we have all been acting out in the past where we're trying to get ready to get somewhere in the morning and everything is going wrong. We're trying to hurry up even more. And that's when we splash the coffee all over the place and have to now clean up the mess because we don't want it to stain the carpet. And at that point, we stub our toe in the coffee table. So the more we're hectically trying to speed up, the more we're slowing ourselves down by having to put out fires that weren't there in the first place. Whereas what I have come to experience is that the more grounded and centered I am at the beginning of my day, the better things fall into place. And even at times where it seems that the rush and the hurry is catching up with me, and I'm hearing that voice in the back of my mind going, come on, we're going to be late, hurry up. When I intentionally quiet it down, catch my breath, recenter, that's when I become very clear on what I'm doing, bringing presence to the actual moment, not the thing 2 seconds later or 5 minutes later. And that's when we kind of get in that zone and we definitely become more productive. What we do is of better quality and it just feels much better.
Yes, absolutely. I've been there. I've done all of those things. Dropped something I've been drinking or ran into something, and then the rest of my morning is chaotic because I can't get myself together. So if I make that point of being still before I start all that and then go slow, I definitely have a better morning for sure. Yeah. Yeah. You bring up such a good point. So is there anything in particular that you feel like would be a great message for listeners if they're out there wondering, okay, so, my days are normally really hectic. So how am I going to fit time into my morning when it already is so jam-packed full of stuff that needs to get done?
Yeah.
What would be your message to our listeners?
Well, it would be a two-part message. On the one hand, there's the practical aspect of things, time management pieces, let's say. And the other part has to do with the relationship we have with time. And so any kind of relationships take two parties. There's us and the thing we're in relationship with. So the piece that I find fascinating and really the most impactful one to focus on is that part of us that is in relationship to time. And that can be a number of things. It could look like becoming more aware of the type of beliefs and ideas that we hold about time. We may have taken on habitually the notion that, well, time is scarce and I have to do everything in a very formatted way and fit activities into boxes. I remember as a kid, I was fascinated by a book, and at this time, I don't remember the title. Well, the title in French was 13 à la douzaine, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't the exact translation, so I don't remember what the English title of this book is. But anyways, the story was this: the father was a time management expert, and he was at the head of a family where they were, I think, it, yeah, they were 10 kids plus the two parents, and then there was another baby coming along the way during the timeline of the story. And so, as a time efficiency expert, he had developed a system in which all the kids had bathroom time and they were to be for like 2 minutes each in the bathroom with a little lenience if they had a special thing that day. Anyways, every bit of the day was cut out into pieces of time for everybody to accomplish their tasks, for everybody to have downtime. And there was something very fascinating about this because I think that there was a part of me that loved the idea that we could be so in control. It's very reassuring to feel we're in control. But this part of the story too is that eventually, and that was based on a true story, actually, that's the fascinating piece as well. The father passed away at a fairly young age. I don't remember, maybe in his 50s, from a heart attack. And then there was how the family had to bounce back from this big loss, and the mother kind of took on the business and kept the family afloat. And a lot of the kids were grown enough also to be able to take some of the responsibility on their shoulders too. But long story short, that was for me, I think, something that impressed or printed that mindset of time efficiency. And I think that's something that today is a big part of the conversation, whether we realize it or not. We have a culture that honors the type A, super organized, time overcoming beasts that are capable of cramming 50 million things in their day. But I think we can all agree that it's not sustainable if it's not coming from an authentic place. When we are tapping into something inside of us that is fueling our passion, that gives us that limitless amount of energy that will have us move mountains. But when it's something that is purely mental, like we're trying to fit our mind and our life into, like I was saying, boxes, bento box style, but that's not really in resonance with who we are. It's not tapping in something that's really authentic for us. That's when we get burnt out. And that's very important. That's a very important distinction to make because I always think of this quote. I think it might have been attributed to Einstein that if you expect a fish to climb a tree, you will always look at this fish as inadequate, and you will miss out on the genius of the fish. Where the genius is expressed in the water, not climbing trees. So,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think you make a point of with the father, with the story of the family, he was really efficient at scheduling their time, but he also knew that there would be a need for some buffer time too. And so it's interesting to see, like, if we were able to kind of tap into that thought, but also lean more into the idea of giving ourselves a little more grace, and know that if we lean into the idea of things we can't, that are out of our control, that we can't control, that we have to think about scheduling in, really that brings us back down to that idea of less is more,
Mm-hmm.
and being more authentic, like you shared.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and I think you nailed it on the head too. I think that that's the part that catches us when we're in that mindset of I need to schedule in downtime. There's the myth, to me it's like a unicorn, the myth of the work-life balance.
Yes.
Like somehow we can mentally, intellectually um, pre-decide what our day will look like 3 weeks from now, from 9 in the morning until 9 at night. I'm sure
Yeah.
I know that there is value in setting an intention of this is what I want to accomplish this day, or this is what needs to happen in order for this deadline to be met. We certainly need to have some landmarks in order for us to collaborate and participate into common projects. We have to
Mhm.
have those time references. But when we talk work life balance and we think of things in terms of scheduling them and putting them down in the books and abiding by them in a almost like a military way,
Right. Right.
it it defeats the purpose, because balance is a dynamic exercise. It's not like you hit it once and then you stay there. It's constantly readjusting and reestablishing based on the information, the experience in the moment. I don't know what I will feel like 5 hours from now, let alone half an hour from now. we
Yeah.
we meet at at every moment of every day. We're meeting as we're intersecting between the intentions we set, the ideas we have of what we want to use our time for, and the reality of our energy level, the natural cycles of life, the other people's life as well. Life is lifing, like my friend Monica would say. Life is
Mhm.
lifing,
Yeah.
and then we hold so much guilt and shame when we don't carry out projects the way we intended them. We fall short of certain expectations and then beat ourselves over the head for it. When, again, unless you have a crystal ball, you can't really tell how things are going to pan out. It's impossible. And why hold us up to a standard that's impossible to meet?
Right. I mean, that balance is like the holy grail that we're all searching for these days. Is it a myth, or is it something that is, that we can uncover with some strategy? But like you said, we cannot predict how our energy levels are going to change. We can't predict things that are going to come up in life. It just is what it is. We can only control how we prepare and react. That's really all we can do.
Mm-hmm. And you're
So,
right.
like you said, yeah, it's that energy
Yeah.
piece too.
And you're absolutely right. It's in that slowing down that we find that quiet place inside of us that gives us wise instruction, what is meant to
Mhm.
be the next step. The more I am the more I am hectically, again, trying to figure things out from that intellectual place, the more I am subjecting myself to noise. But when I slow down, catch up my breath,
Mhm.
fall back into the moment, the now. Like Eckhart Tolle wrote books,
Mhm.
entire books
Yeah,
about now,
just now.
just now. When we fall
Yeah.
back into this, the slowing down gets us to a quieter place. And from that quieter place, there's actually that elevation of our level of consciousness. The more noise, the more our level of consciousness is dropping. And we're making less good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're also burning out our energy, burning out our bodies. And the more we slow down, the higher our level of consciousness gets, the better quality insights we get, the
Mm-hmm.
better decisions we make, and the better quality interactions we participate in.
Very true. Yeah. I think, there's, we're all, we're human, and anybody listening to this can probably remember a time either most recently in their day or just in the last couple of minutes or last week where they were either worried about something that happened in the past
Mhm.
or they're thinking about something that's happening in the future instead of being present. And
Yeah.
so, what would be your advice to listeners out there that the more you are present and in the now, and the more authentic you can start with a simple breathing strategy, maybe? What would be, or another strategy that you might suggest, besides just thinking it? How could you put that into practice?
That's such an interesting thing. The That notion of practice. Yes, practices they play a role. They help us hone skills, let's say. And on the other side of that, there's what we see or don't see. I was talking about level of consciousness a little bit earlier. At a higher level of consciousness, our mind is expanded and we have the we have a better ability to see. You were saying so truthfully earlier that the mind is going to travel back in the past or way out there in the future. And the mind goes so quickly that
Mm-hmm.
unless we bring attention to where we are putting our gaze, our mental gaze,
Mm-hmm.
unless we are seeing, okay, what am I working with right now? Am I really in this moment? Am I fully connecting with the activity, the moment I am in? Or am I worrying about something that's supposed to take place 2 hours from now or 2 weeks from now? Or am I caught up into something that happened 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
The more gathered we are, centered we are, the the more impactfully we can see that time traveling we do with our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And when we see it at that deeper level, we can really we can really come to terms with the truth that our past and our future only exists at the level of thought. The body is right here, right now. I can't be anywhere else than in the present. That's why
Mm-hmm.
the practice of taking a nice deep breath in and of itself, is grounding and very efficient in bringing us back here because the body is here. But when we are truly seeing from inside that the past lived in our thought. And it's not to say that things that happened in the past shouldn't be looked at or ignored. That's not the point. But when we are slowed down or let's say burdened by our past, that we blame our past for circumstances that we are dealing with today, and that we see that, oh, this past only lives here because of thought. It's only because I am giving it life through thought that it is still causing any kind of impact today.
Mm-hmm.
When we really have that deeper understanding, when we look at the mechanics of the mind, we dispel the hypnosis that those thoughts have on us because we kind of live in those trances. We live in that hypnotic thinking of, oh, I'm miserable, or I don't have time, or all these things that burden us are fabrications of the mind. And when we see that, it's so liberating because if I make them up, I can let them go. It's not
Mm-hmm.
something that's an actual force weighing down on me. It's something that I have an impact on. I have power over. And that's such a beautiful and like I'm saying, liberating realization that at that moment we heal a lot of the woundedness that exists in that relationship we have with time.
Mm. That is so insightful because, yeah, our thoughts, we think that we don't have any control over them, but we
Hmm.
do.
Hmm.
We can change those thoughts anytime we choose to.
And we can realize we're not the thought too. It's that
Mm-hmm.
conflation of me and my thinking that is at the root of so much of the suffering. When
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of people think of themselves as a certain way. They think of themselves as depressed. They think of themselves as anxious. At that moment, their identity is conflated with a way of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
a way of thinking about the future and worrying about it is what causes anxiety. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
it's a trait of personality. It's not who I am. I am not anxious. I experience anxiety because my mind is mostly focused on future events. And I add to that a filter, a coloration of doom and gloom to it. If
Right,
I were
right.
imagining future as awesome and great and fun, I wouldn't feel anxious. I'd be excited. I'd be like, oh wow, tomorrow, yay. Instead of, oh my
Right.
God, tomorrow, oh my gosh. you know?
Mm-hmm. Right,
So
right.
that relationship with our thinking and seeing the thinking, it's 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 where we come back to truth, the truth of the
Mm-hmm.
moment, the truth of who we are. And like you said, that power. So one thing that was very helpful for a lot of people I worked with was to see that they are not in control of the thoughts entering their mind. That's one
Mm-hmm.
thing that also we can pressure ourselves with. Like, oh my gosh, I have all these thoughts, especially people who try to sit in meditation and they're driving themselves crazy. Like, why can't I stop my mind from thinking? Why can't I just
Yeah.
wipe that slate clean? And that's a lot of pressure to put on someone.
Yes.
We're not
Yes.
guilty or responsible of the things that enter our mind. But what we do manage is what we place our attention on. That's the piece that,
Mm-hmm.
again, it's a subtle distinction, but an important one nonetheless. We are not in control of the thoughts that come through our mind. We can have goofy thoughts. We can have sadistic thoughts. We can have very bad thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
that's all right. I just don't have to amplify them by my attention. I can select a thought that's more positive. I can select a thought that's more constructive. I can select a thought that just feels more enjoyable.
Right. We are, I mean, I do believe that we're co-creators
Mhm.
and we can, yeah, like we can acknowledge, but then choose a better thought or a
Yes.
different thought. Whatever we want to, it doesn't have to have a label. Um, I mean, it could be if you're in a moment where you just need to be, basically not feeling your best and you want to have a moment where you're feeling down, that can be a choice, but hopefully you choose not to stay there too long and you choose to move on to something more positive. But again, I'm putting labels on thoughts as well. So,
Well, that's an exercise in discernment.
mm,
It's we need to set some reference points in our
mm-hmm,
mental landscape. The notion is to really see that I'm the one putting the label. It's not a
mm-hmm,
truth label that always is true at all times, but at that moment, I'm referring to this thought as bad because it's not helping me.
right, right, right. Yeah. So just choosing a different thought and where and having a conversation with yourself about where you want to be
Mhm,
or what you want to how you want to feel
mhm,
or what you want to think. I mean, it could be just I mean, it sounds simple, and of course, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not trying to, tell anybody how to think about their thoughts, but we're having a conversation about how to think differently about thoughts is really where we're
Mhm.
going with this today. And with that focus of mind, body, and soul, knowing that if somebody is struggling with the thoughts that keep coming through and they're trying to be mindful about their thinking, that cognition, they're thinking about their thinking, and they're trying to add that into their practice, maybe
Mhm.
daily,
Mhm.
weekly, however frequently they choose to do that. At some point, where does energy differ from thinking? And is there a conflict or maybe a resolution that comes up for you and with your clients that you kind of talk them through, maybe?
Yeah. One thing that I found particularly helpful was listening to Mavis Karn talk about the Mississippi River. And she was illustrating the different levels of the mind
Mm,
with that comparison to a river. So essentially, her point was that when you look at the Mississippi River, it's a huge river very that's very active, especially if you look at the surface. Maybe there are things floating, maybe the wind is blowing waves, and there's activity, boats, I mean, you name it.
mhm.
It's it's rough. Maybe on some days
Yes.
it can be really rough, but the
Right.
deeper you go,
Mhm.
the more quiet it gets, and there's more of that stability.
Mm,
The mind is kind of like that. When we are caught up into a lot of thinking, that's when our mind gets scattered. It gets chaotic, hectic.
mm,
And
mhm,
in the body, it may feel like tension. You can feel like your neck tensing up, or maybe your breathing. Oftentimes the breathing becomes more shallow when we're starting to stress out about stuff. You really notice that not only do we bring our shoulders forward, we hunch down, we the breathing becomes more labored. Whereas when we're
mhm,
more relaxed, shoulders tend to come back, chest
mhm,
opens up. In yoga we talk about heart openers. We're more open to the world, and the breathing is deeper. There's more expansion in the rib cage, right?
mhm,
So it's a good way to even just notice where we are in our thinking. Am I in a spin my wheels, feverish kind of thinking? I can feel it in my body. Or am I dropping into that more quiet, more peaceful space where I have the bandwidth? I truly have the bandwidth to take the moment fully, appreciate the gifts of the moment, respond to the demands of the moment, and be, truly be, really show up for the moment versus
mm,
I'm over here caught up in an idea, in many ideas, and maybe even conflicting ideas of what
right.
this moment is, and just sinking back into that quiet space. So earlier we were talking about practices. The
Mhm,
practices are vehicles that help us get in touch with this experience of innate peace, of our wellness. And ultimately, when we come into those practices, they enable us to have more of that in outside of the quote unquote practice time. It's like you go at the gym, you work out, you get your muscles toned up and stronger. Well, you get to use the benefits of that exercise out there. You have now that strength to move the bags from the grocery store or carry your kids or whatever other task is requiring a little bit of physical oomph.
right.
The
Yes.
benefits don't stop the moment you get out the door of the gym.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing too is to not fall in the trap of thinking that the practice is what brings the well-being or the peace. The peace, the well-being is who we are. The practice is what enables us to get in touch with that, to remember it, to reconnect with it so that it can serve us the rest of the day. So we can remember who we are instead of being caught up into the ideas of who we are.
Mm. And maybe taking that a little bit further is thinking about how we feel when we apply those strategies like
Mm-hmm.
breathing
Mm-hmm.
or yoga or Pilates or whatever we're choosing to do to strengthen that core and our muscles and the way we have our posture. So, having that awareness in your body, knowing how that feels when we're stressed, and then knowing how it feels when we're more grounded and calmer. I'm I'm sure that you are thinking, or you walk your clients through a little bit of that awareness. Do you work on any kind of body scan work, or do you work on just kind of having that conversation about like, how do you feel with them? What are some what are some strategies that you've used with clients in the past that have worked?
I think of a tuning fork.
Mm,
So when I enter a conversation, whether it's a one-on-one coaching session or even a group call or a group
mhm,
meeting, my job takes place even before, where I I do my best to land myself into the kind of experience that not only will make me more available and more more competent in the exchange, but also to possibly contaminate in a good way the other people with it.
mm,
To give you an example, I was fortunate and honored to work for a rehabilitation facility for a few years. And it so happened that the COVID years were took place while I was working in this facility. And so people who were there were participating in an 8-week program, and that meant that they were not fully cut off from their families. They were in touch via phone, but they were not receiving visits, and they were not
mm,
getting out until they had completed the program. The idea was to create a space for them to really come to terms with what got them into the pickle that they were, and find the resources to then take on life with different tools, different resources.
mhm, mhm,
So they were already at a very vulnerable time in their lives. On top of that, there was all the angst of not knowing what was going to happen. Um, they would
right,
watch TV, so they would watch the news, and they would see the reports of all the 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 chaos in hospitals and the questions, and so they were not cut off by any means of what was on out there. They were maybe worried for their loved ones that were still on the
mm,
outside. So they had a lot going on. Well, I'm not a doctor. I certainly have no background in biology. I don't understand viruses at a complex level. I don't
mhm,
have anything to contribute to them that would reassure them on that level. I don't have any medical competence to give them data and facts and bring them reassurance.
mhm,
But what I could do was walk into the group from a place of peace and wellness.
mhm,
And I would do that even before COVID happened. And it was it was a lot of the times very soothing and comforting without even saying a word, because I could say to people until I'm blue in the face, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. But if I am coming from a
mhm,
place of frantic fear, chances are they're going to pick up on that. There's
mhm,
no way people don't see the discrepancy between the words we say and the attitude we have, the feeling we have. But when I was really sincerely connected to that peace, walk into the room and not say like, well, everything is hunky dory and life is good out there, but you know what? There's only so much we can do. And here today, we can we can have the types of insights that are going to bring change in your life. We can
Mhm.
connect you with that part of you that is healthy and vibrant and alive, so that your life is going to be impacted positively. That we can do. We can do it right now. I can't do anything about the virus. I can't do anything about the media. I can't do anything about any of that out there. But today, right here, right now, we can definitely come to see some truth about the nature of who we are, and feel into our wellness so that we can bring that to other people. And that's one thing I found too, especially in my early years as a coach. There were sessions where when I would walk away, I felt maybe the sadness or the stress of my client. And
Mhm.
over time, I came to see that the more I cultivate that space inside of me and then meet my client or my group with that peace, with that wellness, I don't even have to say anything. I don't have to convince them of anything, but quite naturally, they kind of meet me there. And from there,
Mm.
wow, they have the insights. They find the resource. They get the idea. They have the reframe. They get inspired. It comes from them, which is all the more powerful
Mm.
because it amplifies that trust in themselves. It amplifies that confidence that, yeah, they got this. Even when stuff is hitting the fan, they got this. And that's so
Right.
much more. And I find that that is one of the true pillars of coaching, is
Mhm.
to transfer our confidence in the client into the client, that they have that confidence in themselves, that they
Mhm.
find that they are their source of well-being, that they are their source of success. They got this. That's the main job, I think, of a coach, is helping
Mhm.
people find their brilliance, find their wealth inside.
Right, because everybody has it, but working with a coach, somebody like you, who is going to be not just life affirming, but it'll help them tap into that natural fountain that's inside of them. And then they'll learn strategies working with you where they can start tapping into that more often.
Mhm.
Because it's not just one and done, right? They can't just usually do it once and forever be changed. It's got to be a practice of feeling that positive energy, I guess I would say. But at the same time, I'm sure there are strategies that you work with them so they practice on their own and then they come back and work with you. So it's, over time, which again, we've kind of touched on that too. It's time is relative. Um, but I think it's that we need more time to really work on those strategies for ourselves so we can feel that positive energy.
And we have resources like you, because I actually vividly remember I was listening to an episode where you were talking about the concept of hygge. Hygge?
Mm. Yoga. Yes.
Hygge. And and I caught myself being in that rush mode and hearing you talk
Mm.
about it, and I felt your connection to the
Mm.
concept. I felt your connection to that moment of wellness as you were talking about it.
Mhm.
And there was a very umami moment. We're just like melt into that space of wellness, of
Yeah.
finding the coziness,
Right?
and that's where also being an efficient an intentional curator of
Mm-hmm.
what we consume, podcasts, TV shows,
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
It's so important because
Mm-hmm.
it decides of what we're connecting with energetically, emotionally,
Right.
psychologically.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Because we're not just talking here in a bubble like we don't know what's going on in the outside world. We know there's a lot of horrible things happening every day in the world. And, if we choose to watch the news, and see all the devastation, most recently what's happened in Texas with the flooding,
mhm,
we're not um, immune to that by any means. But what we're going to do is we're going to choose what we want to bring into our daily life, what we want to bring into our home and our space. We're going to send love and healing thoughts out to the world as much as we can. At least I'm sure you and I are both doing that as much
mhm.
as possible. And anybody listening to this podcast, anytime and space, right? Because podcasts can last for a long time. You might be listening to this 5 years into the future. So, yeah, it's like, really, what are we going to control, and what are we going to let come into that cocoon and that healing space that we call home, or our body bubble, whatever we want to call that, how far we want to take it. But I've intentionally made that something that's really important to me, to have that hygge in my
Mhm,
life, and that's what
mhm,
my word is for this year. And so the more I'm going to support and help anybody that I'm coaching or working with, most recently in school spaces, because there are, people are going through stuff every day. But when I come home at the end of the day, or I turn off the computer at the end of the day, I'm going to want to decompress and clear out and then come back to my core. And so, yeah, I mean, you really have to think about that. It's going to have to be a mindful approach every day, and in every space that we pivot to here and there,
mhm.
working with clients.
And bring that hygge even in workspace.
Hmm.
Because that also contributes again in more productivity and
Right.
efficiency, and it's treating ourselves well. I'm not going
Yeah.
to create a hectic schedule of back-to-back calls. I'm not gonna
Right.
cut out my lunch break. I'm really creating as much wellness as possible in my quote unquote production time, because that's
Hmm.
where the best quality of service is going to come out. And that's also, again, we only have so much influence or impact on the world out there.
Hmm.
But it's also such it's a privilege to take responsibility for our wellness, because when I really take on the responsibility of being the best version of myself and showing up in the best possible mindset and state wherever I go, my cup is full, and
Hmm.
I have the ability then to be generous with what overflows. I might not be saving Texas right now, but if I'm tapped out
Hmm.
and running on fumes, I'm only surviving here in my little bit of the world. But
Hmm.
when I live from that expansive place of feeling good, of taking care of myself, of being responsible for my inner world, well, I might come up with an idea of something I can do that might help one family, or
Hmm.
that can be helpful for somebody who is helping, who is in a space to make a direct impact for the people who are encountering duress. We never know how
Hmm.
much how much ripple effect one simple action, one simple way of being can have on the rest of the world. And the more we take on responsibility, the more we're willing to be as good as we can be, the better impact we have on everything we touch. And that, I
Hmm.
think, it's not about having an egocentric view of the world. It's not saying me, 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 but it's because I am doing what is right for me, what is
Hmm.
true, then I can be truly of service to others. And I
Mm-hmm.
can be a force for the world to help out, to encourage, to lift up. And I don't know how that gets any better than this.
Yeah, that is so true. That speaks to me, I think, on a soul level. If anybody listening to this believes that we're all one, then that's where the true work can be done.
Mhm.
We're giving back. We can definitely, you may not have the money to give back, you may not have the time to volunteer, but you can work on your energy and prayers and positive thoughts and yeah, and start with you.
And we can send out love and comfort to the people
Mm-hmm.
who are in dire straits. I know that there's
Mm-hmm.
certainly moments of, uh, I would say, kind of miraculous influence where maybe I was in a really tough spot in my life and suddenly something soothing came over me. And I felt, and maybe it was someone who was just making a random prayer for compassion in the
Right?
world. I don't know
Right?
what it was, but it
Mm-hmm.
was just enough in that moment to kind of take me out of whatever despair bubble I was. It burst something that I felt stuck into and just
Mm-hmm.
gave me enough room to, well, take a next action or adopt a more constructive outlook and
Yes.
be more responsible, be more engaged rather than feeling victimized by circumstances or whatnot. So I do believe that even sending out positive intention and healing vibes or joy or comfort or compassion, even that, if I don't have money right now to give for relief, even if I
Mm-hmm.
don't have maybe an extra room to offer to someone,
Yeah.
even that matters. Even that is a contribution.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Florence, I think you've given our listeners a lot to think about. And I know I mean, just in the last couple of days, I can definitely take some practices and thoughts back to my daily meditation, to my mindful practice. I think just leveling up my energy,
Mhm.
just talking to you has been a lovely hour of conversation. So, if our listeners want to find out more about how you coach in the world, I'll make sure that we include all of that in the show notes. But do you have anything in particular that you want to share as far as information of how listeners can find you?
Well, the best spot is my website. So feel free to come and meet me there. It's
Mm-hmm.
realizeunlimited.com. And there's this limitless mindset checklist that I created that gives some guideposts to start looking to see where in everyday life we might be creating limitations or where we can expand our mindset to, because ultimately we all create prisons for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing is that we hold the key and we can push the door and we can cross the threshold. It's all up to us. There's so much in our hands, and we very often um, minimize or underestimate how much how much power we have, how much possibility is available for us. So um, it's just a beautiful journey to heal the relationship we have with ourselves. And I encourage anyone to just be more curious and more available for the insights that I'm sure they have every day, but that we don't always hear because we get distracted by all the noise out there. So I know that a lot of people associate quiet with boring or stagnant or insignificant, but really there's a lot of richness. There's so much to cultivate in a space of quiet and peace. And it's something that has become scarce because it's not valued nearly as much as it should. So
Mm-hmm.
please explore the quiet space. Please take even 2 minutes every day with, like Kendra was saying, your favorite beverage in the morning, a nice warm cup of coffee, tea, whatever floats your boat, and enjoy meeting yourself and appreciating yourself, appreciating your day. That alone will go a long way.
Yes, that's a good reminder. Great advice. And I hope listeners will take you up on that. I'm so happy that you could join us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kendra. I loved our conversation. Thank you so much.
That's it for today's episode of the Go Slow to Go Fast Lifestyle Podcast. I hope that you feel inspired and empowered by Florence's wisdom to take proactive steps towards your own well-being during these significant life transitions. And now I'd love to hear from you. What's one mindful practice that you're going to go slow on this week to make a purposeful step towards progress? What was your biggest takeaway from my discussion today with Florence and her insights about navigating life through mindfulness? So let's keep the conversation going, and I'll make sure that I put all the information in the show notes to connect with Florence. She also shared her website. And of course, you can always connect with me on coachingwithkendrachapman@gmail.com and visiting my website, www.coachingwithkendrachapman.com. And I hope that you'll consider looking me up on Instagram, DMing me, or commenting on anything that I post to just kind of keep the conversation going and let me know how you're adding mindfulness into your practice. So remember, as you're walking through whatever season you're in, I hope that you're doing so with confidence and purpose and a little extra grace. And if you love this episode, I hope that you'll consider sharing it with a friend or everybody you know who needs a little calm or clarity in their health journey. And as always, stay connected and remember, the light in me honors the light in you. And as you head into the rest of your week, let your light shine through. Go slow, be intentional, and embrace the season you're in. And until next time, I hope that you remember to go slow to go fast. And thanks for listening.